Well, I've done 32,000 miles in my Renault Zoe, 41 kilowatt hour, battery owned electric vehicle. So how have I been getting on with it? The entire time I've owned this car, apart from a squeak from the suspension, I've basically had no issues with it. I've run the diary up to this point with not a lot to say, which does speak volumes for the car, to be fair. But one of the things about this car is that I treat it as a utility. I don't love the car. This is not something that I actually treasure as such. I treasure it as the utility that it is, that gives me the freedom to travel from A to B with very little worries about charging or charging infrastructure or anything like that. It was a cracking price. It was £16,000 brand new for a 40 kilowatt hour car with a range in summer of around about 200 miles, just shy of. Some people have actually got over 200 miles in them, but you have to drive them very sensibly for that. In winter though, you see a significant drop, as you do with all EVs pretty much, unless they've got massive batteries which are brought down and restricted and rely on that big battery in there. In summer I was typically getting around about 165, 170 miles of range, and then in winter I see that on the GOM, the guessometer, I see that go down to about 115 to 125, and so I get around about that. It makes no real odds to me because I'm not doing 125 miles in a single charge anyway. In terms of this car as a utility for getting from A to B, is I think probably the best value for money EV on the market still, even almost 3 years on. When I got it, it must be noted, it was a bargain. They sold quite a few of these exact models off the back of my video, that exact dealer. In fact, so much so at the time, I actually got a phone call to say, what is going on? People keep mentioning you and putting orders in for these cars. Now it was a bargain, and they soon shifted the price up within weeks by a couple of grand, and then phased it in a bit higher then yet again. And they had to start refusing to sell them because they didn't make any money on them at that price. Nonetheless, I got an absolute bargain. It's real life. There was no sponsorship or anything like that at all. It was just me walking in saying, we'd like to buy one, and that's the sort of price I'd like to pay, and they did me a deal on it. Nothing more complicated than that, really. So, real life, that was the cost of it. This is as cheap as anything. Now, if you're following this channel, you may have noticed that I'm actually also driving around in a Honda E. Now, I've had some comments on that car, many of which say absolute rip-off, doesn't go very far. And I've addressed this in a previous video. That Honda E does so much more than this car does, for a start. But one thing it doesn't do is the range. So if you're looking for a cheap car as a utility, like a white good, I treat this as like a washing machine, dishwasher, we use it daily, stuff gets thrown in it. You know, I've given it a clean this morning inside for the first time in months, just because it gets so muddy so quickly, and I'm usually carrying a husky around in it called Bruce. Some of you will know it. So it's performed brilliantly. I have no range anxiety in this car at all. And the other thing about the charging is it will accept any charge pretty much. So it will take a 3 kilowatt charge, it will take a 7 kilowatt charge, it will take a 22 kilowatt hour charge, all the way up to 43, which is pretty special. So to be able to plug in and charge it pretty much any rate you like on a post, that depending on what power it's giving out, is comforting. 7 kilowatts for us, owning the Leaf, 2014 Leaf, going out for 4 years, and we got the ENV 200. Those are both 3.3 kilowatt. That's the maximum they take. So for every hour of charge, you approximately get 12 miles. In this, you're getting about 25, which is pretty neat. That is a massive bonus. Be able to plug in, 60 minutes later go 25, and we're in reach of pretty much everywhere we would need to go. So from that point of view, the range that this car does and the rate at which it accepts power, it's a winner. It's brilliant. It's also a 5-seater, so we can take the whole family minus one. So if Amy, my wife, isn't with me, I can fit all the children in the car. I can't do that in the Honda E. It's underneath. So even though it's fair in what you call, it's not a complete compact car, it's got quite a lot of space in it, you can carry what you need to carry in it. We've got a family of 6, I can carry 5 of us in it, and our luggage in the back. Plenty of room, no issues whatsoever. So it's all good, it's all good news, isn't it? It's all amazing. Well, yes and no. So, in terms of a utility, in terms of value for money, brilliant, amazing, brilliant car. Can't go wrong. So, and that will cover the majority of people purchasing an electric car. They're going to be doing it for economy, essentially. That would be the reason. If they're not, then they've got more cash to splash, and we'll be looking at other things, not only the range and the cost. And this is where I thought I would do this review, because I've been driving around in the Honda E now, I've done over 1,000 miles in it. You get back into this car, it ain't so good, because you've got something to benchmark it against. Now the Honda E fails, as I say, in price and in range, but in its handling, the 152 brake horsepower, so the power delivery, all the gadgetry that's crammed into that thing, which we can say in one sentence, all the gadgetry, could almost say it in one sentence, it's a lot more than that. There's a lot more at play than just some gadgets. There's a lot of features in there which are incredible and make that car really safe and an absolute joy to drive. Not only that, it's more comfortable. So the seating in it, the bolster sort of along the side here where you hold you in, much more comfortable. The headrest where you lean back is more comfortable, the seat position is more comfortable. When you get in it, it's a lower down car, which some will see as a disadvantage. When you get into this car, so we're talking about the Zoe here, but I've got something to benchmark it against at the moment, which is a very tightly built car. This is a lot looser. So you kind of see where the money goes. Maybe not all of it, but the majority of it, there's a vast difference, put it that way. And so it's worth remembering that. So for instance, now I'm coming up to a junction, the braking, the regenerative braking on the Zoe is incredibly gentle. Now it's controlled by the brake pedal. So when you first apply the brake pedal, you just touch it and it starts, you can see it on the dash, you can select it and see how much regen you're getting back. And the more you press the brake pedal, the more regen you get back, up until a point where the brakes cut in. But that's all got to be manually controlled. And so I'm comparing this with other cars, and especially the Honda E, with one pedal driving. Now the one pedal driving on the Honda E is adjustable by paddles at the back, so you can tailor the amount of regen up to about 4 stops, so 4 points of stop, basically. And it does it all for you, whereas this doesn't. So you get in this car from being something like the Honda E, and it's sparse, which is not a problem, because this was bought to save money. I wanted the cheapest EV with the longest range, and this filled that absolutely. It is a bargain. It is brilliant. The ride is very wallowy in comparison to something as tightly put together as the Honda E. Feels a lot more sporty, that Honda E. Point it and it goes. This is a bit more wee, a bit more woo, like an SUV 4x4 style thing you would expect. That sort of wallowing. The seat position is quite high, which gives you good visibility, actually. To be fair, all round, pretty much. You've got quite a big blind spot to the left and to the right. So when I look right here, I can't actually see much. That's why partly I've got the reversing camera. So I've got the reversing camera, which is £250, so £16,250 this car cost. Reversing camera is worked really, really well. But you do notice, yet again, the quality difference is very, very low quality. It's like 360 DPI or something like that. It's low. And so that visibility is not great on the reversing camera. You notice that when you're comparing it with the 720. And things like that. So it's not as clear, but it does its job. The other thing I noticed was when I got back into this after doing 500 or 600 miles, I think it was, in the Honda E, I was driving it home. I was amazed that the lights are so bad. The headlights are really bad. I think there's upgrades up there for LED headlights, but they're very, very dim. Again, I've lived with it for almost 3 years. I've not into any problems. It's just that you can see where the disparity between the costs are. and there's been lots of cost savings on this car. So we're talking about the ride isn't as good as other cars. We're talking about the lighting and the tech that's built into this car doesn't even come close. This car is brilliant for its range and its price. It is a billy bargain, and in fact it hasn't depreciated much from what I originally paid for it. It's incredible. We're 3 years in and it's not far adrift from the new price that I paid, and it's not expected to depreciate much more over the next couple of years. And it's very likely that my oldest son will have this car. This is the car that he will be driving in a couple of years' time. So we're aiming to keep it for that length of time at least. And so going out on long journeys in this Zoe is just brilliant, because there's very little concern about the charging. Now the Type 2 charging connection is slowly being phased out in terms of the fast charge on rapid chargers. So they've got the CCS, which the Honda E's got, but not the Type 2. But you can use destination chargers, Tesla destination chargers, which is pretty neat. And a lot of those do put out 22 kilowatts. So you can pull up, you can charge at 22, which is very, very neat. It's pretty amazing, really. The seat has no actual adjustment on the side. You've got to go forward and back with the actual back part of the seat. So that's lacking a little bit there. So where do I stand with this car after 32,000 miles? And there'll be more reviews to come on this. And I think I've pretty much summed it up, which is, it is amazing utility. I have no real love for the car, but it takes me to A to B to C to D and E with no issue. I've had no issues with charging. I plug in, I've had no errors. It's been spot on. It's been fine. So if you're in the market for an EV and you're worried about range and you're worried about price, check out the Zoe. And there's different versions out now. So they've got the 50, ZE50. I'm not sure you can still get the quick charge version of the 41 kilowatt hour. Certainly not new. I don't think there was that many about at the time. So you may be able to pick one of these up. Battery owned. I bought it battery owned because I thought when I come to sell it, or if we do sell it, it's going to be worth a lot more if you can quick charge this thing when you're out and about. So it's worked fine. I mean, the climate control. So the gadget has got is climate control, essentially. I've had not much joy with the charge settings. It seems to not work very well at all. It just trips on and off as it pleases. So I've had no real joy there. But then I just plug in late at night, basically. And no issue. Works. From my point of view, it's worked fine. No problems. And the performance, when you compare it to something like the Honda E, then yeah, it's a lot more sluggish. Oh, Tesla Model 3, dual motor. But that's not what you're buying it for. You're buying this to save money, and on that it works really, really well. It does not take many years of ownership, as long as you're doing at least average mileage, to break even on the car in comparison to fuel costs. And this is where EVs shine, is where a case can be made. Whereas something like the Honda E, in terms of the price, if you're sensitive to the price, you can't really make a case for buying that one because it only does 80 miles, whereas this will do another 100 on top of that. Not quite, but close enough. Which is substantial. We're yet to see how the Honda E actually performs in summer. We shall see, but this one will always outperform it in range and in price. There's nothing you can do about that, and it's got more space, it's got an extra seat, it's got much bigger boot space, and the boot opening on this is huge. And as you know, as I said, you can carry a Husky around in it, so that says something. It's nice and quiet. It's just a brilliant utility. So for the price and range, you can't really go wrong. And some people just won't drive a Zoe because it's called a Zoe, or it's made by Renault, and then that's a different argument altogether. But where I stand at 32,000 miles so far and almost 3 years of ownership is that it's performed brilliantly. So we can critique Renault and French manufacturers and whatever you like. So far I'm just reporting on a car that I spent my own hard-earned money on. It's performing spot on. Do I enjoy driving the Honda E more? Absolutely. It's a complete pleasure. As I say, you get back into this, it's an old wallowing car in comparison. But in terms of costs, this beats it, hands down. And it's stopped and it's so quiet. And the climate control, you can use the key fob to start it up, or you can use the app and that works fine. From that point of view, everything else has been completely spot on. So a couple of things would be that the ride's a bit wallowy, the headlights are a bit dim, but the range and the price are spot on. So I hope that gives you some insight. There will definitely be more when we run up to 60,000 miles or another 10,000 miles. I'll do another video review. If anything else goes wrong, then there will be another video review. But so far, it's performing for us as a utility, getting kicked about with bits of mud in the back, dogs in the back, stack full of stuff, carrying stuff to and from the skip, all this sort of stuff, all your daily life stuff. It's been performing brilliantly, no issues whatsoever. So the great thing is with the Honda E and this and the ENV200, I've got a whole mixture of cars and having the experience from the Leaf. You know, this one slots straight into the value for money and the range. And the Honda E is a lot better put together car, that's for sure. A lot tighter drive, much more enjoyable to drive, unless you're coming to the end of that range. So if you're trying to do long mileage, it might be worth having a look at this one because it fits that niche very nicely. So check it out. Check out the ZE50, I think it's called, which is the newer version than this. But if you can get your hands on one of these battery owned 41 kilowatt hours, you're not going to be disappointed. So please like and subscribe if you haven't done already. And if you've got any question on this at all, or anything you want me to try out in this that I haven't yet covered off or done in the Leaf videos I did previously, then comment below. Comment below what car you've got, how many miles you've done, what it cost you to get it, whether you think it's good value for money or whether you've got reservations about some or disappointments or whatever. Because no car's perfect. No car fits exactly what you need. So let me know, because I am genuinely interested, and I do try and reply to every single person that comments, to be engaged with everybody that comments. If I miss it, then it's because I haven't been notified or I've just missed it because I've got stacks of stuff to do. But I'll try and do it, something to do in my spare time. I'm just reporting back now at 32,000 miles, basically. Well, it's 31,785, but I thought I'd make this video whilst I got a snippet of time. So I'll see you on the next one. And if you want to, you can go to the Patreon part of there'll be a link below, and you can throw $5 our way to try and do things. I mean, I've got multiple cameras and microphones and stuff. I do this as a hobby anyway, but it just helps. So yeah, if you wish to, brilliant. If not, don't worry about it, doesn't matter. That's all cool. And I hope this advice has helped in some way. If you're not getting an EV just yet, but you are trying to enter into the market for an EV, I definitely encourage you to take that plunge. I don't think you'll ever be disappointed. But if you've got any questions on it, I'm sure to be able to answer most of them if you give some details. So I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, might do a review on the ENV200, a catch up on that one soon, because we're clocking on the miles on that. This one's done 32. I think that one's done, it's clocking on for 40,000, I think, on that. So yeah, that's even got even less range than this one, than the Honda E, and the Leaf. It's got less range than all those because it's a heavier car and it's shaped like a van. But we live with it with no issues whatsoever. And we've had that now, what, 3 years more, something like that. So yeah, well, I'll report back as and when. All the best.